Well, welcome back to the podcast, Conversations with Jeff Bucknam. And we are going to have a conversation today because everyone has a story. My name is Tommy Creutz. I am the host of the podcast. Haven't been here in a while, Jeff, because
Tommy,
we took a break.
Do you list on like your bio that this is something you do?
For sure. This is already on my resume.
Tommy Creutz, pastor, next gen pastor, Harvest Bible Chapel, Chicago.
Host of
the
Conversations with Jeff Bucknam. Yeah. Absolutely.
Have you gotten a lot of sponsorship for that? I mean, like, basically, have we gotten a sponsor?
Not
yet. You
were
working on this summer? You just spent a lot of time trying to get some sponsors?
No, but I will now. I'll see what we can get sponsored by. We'll have maybe a sponsorship break.
We would. Yeah.
It would be really fun. We should absolutely do that. But we've been gone.
This podcast is totally for sale.
It's 100% for sale. You need to do some advertising? We got you.
You need to reach like 6 or 7 people.
Boom. We're your market. We got a market share of something here. And but we're excited to do it. And we took a bit of a break over the summer. There was a bit of a special edition when we were talking about On the Money, when we were going through that series as a church. And you guys talked a little bit about that. But now we're back with season 3 or 4, one of those, and
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But we had a whole summer in between and now.
Yeah.
And so, what have you been doing? How's your summer?
It's been good. I've been riding my bike a lot, and I have a scooter.
You do have a scooter.
My scooter a lot.
I wanted to talk about that so much.
So when I first got here last year, I was noticing that everything's pretty flat.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, I think I could get around on things that don't cost a lot of money.
Sure.
And then gas was going up in price, and I'm like a secret environmentalist. I really am, actually. Yeah. Like, it still hurts me that no one recycles here. It bothers me. Yeah. Whenever I put something in the trash, you guys love putting your bottles and cans and stuff in the trash.
Yeah, right in the trash.
Like, oh my goodness, this is just not right.
Just put it in the other bin.
Say a prayer of repentance every time I do it. So yeah, I've spent this summer. Last year I got this one scooter and it was great. I really enjoyed it.
Is that the one I rode?
Yeah. And it would go up to 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to tell the people.
Fine.
Yeah, totally.
But I found that it made me have to go, long distant ways, and also it didn't have the range. I could ride it to Rolling Meadows and back, but I couldn't get to Elgin and back to my house.
Yeah, so I think that's what people need to know. Like, you don't just scooter around your neighborhood. By the way, for fun.
And also when I say scooter, people are hearing this and they're thinking, one of those sit down moped Vespa things.
Oh yeah, no. I immediately think of like the Razor scooter, the one where you got to pedal a little bit.
Yeah, it's that, but it has an electric motor on it.
Yes, so you don't have to pedal. You don't have to do any work.
No.
You just press the switch.
You kind of have to. It takes some balance.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not an expert scooter.
I ended up going, and I kind of got addicted to it. And then my son needed a car at college. So I said, why don't you take the car? And I don't want to buy any more cars. And so I figured, look, what if I got like the baddest scooter going?
Yeah.
Electric. Mm-hmm. It has 100-mile range and it goes 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
What if I got that one?
Yeah.
And so I did. And it is very funny now because I ride all around the streets, and people give you they give you either stink eye or wow eye.
Yeah.
Whoa. They're usually getting ready to pass me, right, on a road.
Yeah.
And that kind of ticks me off.
Yeah.
So I'm like, not today. And so seriously, I can go, because all the roads I'd ride would be, the fastest road I'd ride would be a 45-mile-an-hour road. And I can easily go 50, 55
totally.
On it. Yeah.
Totally. I think that's one thing
that shocks them.
It shocked me.
Heck? You're going 55 miles an hour on this scooter?
It shocked me because I saw it like the other day. I wanted to see how fast you took off. And so I followed you out of the church, not weirdly, like you knew I was there, and I wanted to watch and see, and you turned around and you floored it, and your wheels screeched.
Yeah, that wasn't even in the top, acceleration mode.
And you were flying.
Like it's a Tesla.
Yeah, it
accelerates like a Tesla does.
It's so fast. And I was shocked to learn.
It's got a little step on the very back of it.
It does. I saw you put your foot
on it so that it doesn't squirt out from underneath you when you push the thing down.
Yeah. And you literally drive an electric scooter on the road.
Yeah.
Like a motorcycle, but
I drive it on the like it's a bike.
So like on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the shoulder.
Or in the lane, but on the right side of the lane. So
Sure.
you could pass me if you want.
Yeah.
If you can.
If you can. I thought that was just so interesting that you do that. And that's how you get to church in
It's how I get everywhere right now.
and Meadows. Yeah.
Yeah, I rode the only first time I drove my car in a long time was when I went to a White Sox game just yesterday. So
Yeah. Can't drive the scooter into the city.
well, it's funny when I got there, people were joking like, "Didn't ride your scooter here," and I was like, "Well, actually, I did look into getting on the train
With the scooter.
and riding my scooter south from there."
That's
when
a
I
real
got
possibility.
into the thing. And actually, by the time I had to drive there during rush hour, had I done that, it would have taken less time to use the scooter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Man,
Yeah.
I just feel like the people have really learned a whole new side of Pastor Jeff Bucknam.
Really?
Yeah. Because like,
I'm a little
who knew that?
Well, as people around here are probably getting to know, I'm a bit outside the box.
yeah,
with
a
stuff.
little bit.
Like I get bored with the normal everyday stuff because what's the point in that?
I think it's fascinating. So if you ever see a scooterer on the side of the road, it's probably
My goal
Jeff.
is every time John Smith drives his Harley here, I'm parking my scooter right in
next
front
to
of it. Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. Oh my goodness. Well, that's some information that I'm sure that you wanted to know. But now we are going to get into a conversation. And our first conversation of this season is going to be with Pastor Dave Learned, who is the pastor of care in our church. And he's going to tell us his story because everyone has a story. And that's what we're going to jump into right now. Let's go.
Well, here we are. You're the first guest of season 3, Dave Learned.
Man,
Dave Learned. You are currently the pastor of care
correct.
at Harvest Bible Chapel, Chicago.
That's right.
What in the world does that mean?
Well, it's a church, Jeff, in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Do you mean that part? Or do
No,
you
I
mean,
actually mean the part about the care pastor.
Okay, yeah, the care pastor. Yeah, so
Don't all
basically-
pastors care?
No, just me. I'm the only one on staff, I think. No,
Not enough
Care?
of us care, so we farmed
it
it
was a
out to
deficit
you.
we had. The basic idea, Jeff, is to help more people in our church, care for more people in our church, but it's to help every campus develop the right systems, the right classes, the right opportunities, and train people up to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're also on a lead team of this church.
Yeah, I'm excited about
Like
that.
you're part of the people making decisions here for the church.
Yeah.
So
What a privilege.
this is as much power as you've ever held. Yeah?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm thankful to serve. I love that we're doing
People
it.
in the room are nodding
Yeah, maybe so.
in trepidation.
It's quite
They're
possible.
like, did you know that he's never had this kind of
What
as if there's power.
Yeah, no. What a privilege though to serve, and I love what's happening in our church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have to say that because I'm sitting here.
Well, yeah, we can talk later.
Yeah. Well, you talk to the listeners later when I'm not around. Dave, tell me a little bit about you, your family right now.
Yeah.
You have a wife and lots of girls.
Yes. I'm super blessed. Diana and I just celebrated our 25th anniversary.
Woo!
So that's a thing.
Did you do something fun?
We did. We went out to Galena. You ever been to Galena?
No.
You should go to Galena. Diane wanted to go to a hot air balloon festival, so we found one, and it was a great time.
So you chose Galena over like Cappadocia, Turkey?
Yeah, well,
or-
there's always practical things in that, like budgets and calendars. And
Is Galena?
It's great.
that-
It's beautiful. It's in
is that
northwest
Illinois?
Yeah, northwest
Oh,
corner of Illinois.
okay.
Yeah,
Never
right
heard of
by
it.
Iowa and Wisconsin. It's a beautiful spot. So
You went out there for
great
like
time.
one day?
We went for 2 days and had a blast. So,
No, that's great. 25th anniversary. Well, congratulations on
Thank you.
that.
Thank
You
you.
also have lots and lots of
Yes.
offspring.
Yes. So we are blessed with 4 daughters, 4 amazing daughters. Hannah is 19 and Annika is 17.
What's Hannah doing?
She is a college student getting ready to start her second year
Where?
at Taylor University, Indiana.
Okay.
So, so she's doing great, having a great experience there. Annika's a senior in high school,
Yes.
just starting in this week.
And many people who are listening to this would know Annika
Yeah.
because she hurt her foot quite horribly.
Yeah, it was awful.
About a year ago.
Yeah, it was August of last year. She had a compound fracture of her tibia, pretty nasty, lots of surgeries, hospital time, and man, she's doing great.
Yeah.
the Lord's just really sustained her, healing her, and it's fantastic.
She and I had a hurt leg around the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although yours doesn't really compare.
No.
No offense to you.
No, that's fair.
She kind of
That's
has
very
the trump
fair.
card.
Mine was
on-
like a hairline fracture thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I played it up about as much as she did.
I think
though.
you did. I do remember that. But no, so Annika's starting her senior year. Malia is starting her sophomore year and working on getting her driver's license. So
Oh my word. When does that happen?
it'll happen next summer, but now's the time to do all your behind the wheel. So
So a lot of where I just came from, they call that those L drivers, learning drivers.
yeah,
learning.
yeah.
So
She
they
has
have
her
a
permit here, learning permit. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's awesome. And then Sophia is a 7th grader.
Yes.
So we're having a blast. And then, as if 5 women at the house are not enough, we just got a dog in January.
And it's
a female.
of course it is.
Yes.
Dave, that's a lot of estrogen. Can we just?
I heard Levi Lusko once say, and I adopted it, that he was a minority in a sorority. So that's what I'm going with.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
What have you learned about women that you did not know before having that many daughters?
Wow. I've learned they're awesome. Like,
Okay, yes.
So I joke with our kids. We don't have any retirement plan. Our plan is to live with each of them 3 months of the year. But I mean, there's a way that God's wired women to care, to nurture, and it's awesome. Like, I'm very blessed.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I think my boys are going to leave me for dead.
Yeah, they won't remember you.
No.
But that's okay. So no, I mean, we love it. Like,
Also, because they're girls, there tends to be a thing when girls get married that the family usually sort of goes toward the girls' side here in our society, and so that is a guaranteed future for you.
Yeah,
in many ways.
The longer story in that is when we were married 3 years, we're like, great, let's have kids, and it was 3 more years until Diane was pregnant.
Oh wow!
So that was that was its own story. Like, okay, what does that mean, and can we have kids, and maybe adoption or maybe whatever. And so when we had Hannah, we're like, that's amazing, what a miracle, as every child is. And then to have 2, and then have 3, and then have 4, we're just like, Lord, you are amazing.
The number 5's on the way.
Well, that's the dog. So we're completely set.
Okay. That's good. Is the dog easier than the girls?
The dog is very different than the girls.
Yes,
and,
I bet.
We're having a blast. The girls really love having the dog. And although I had this reality.
What kind of dog is it?
It is, I have to pause and remember, Australian Labradoodle. It's kind of like a throw rug with legs.
The hypoallergenic type.
It doesn't shed, which I thought was a scam, but it actually doesn't shed.
Okay.
There's no hairs to be found anywhere.
But it's got poodle in it, though. So that's the dig. You got to pay for that somehow, and the poodle is part of it.
It's fun. Yeah. We're having a blast. It did dawn on me, though, that we primarily did this for the kids, but dogs might live 12, 15 years. Like, this is our dog at some point. So.
Yeah, well, they probably, unless you can pawn that dog in its age off to one of the girls.
We'll see how it works.
Yeah. Dave, you grew up in part of Illinois. Illinois is your home state.
That's right. Yep.
Where were you?
In fact, I've never lived outside of Illinois. So
in your whole life?
My whole life. Not for more than, a week or two vacation.
You've been outside though, right? Like it.
No.
You've been.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah. So I grew up in Washington, Illinois, which is a town of about 10,000 people, 15 minutes from Peoria, which is kind of a metropolis in the middle of the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been to Peoria. Mm-hmm. It's very flat.
It is. There's a river. That's kind of a highlight.
There is?
Yeah.
What river?
The Illinois River goes right through Peoria.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And what did you do growing up in Washington, Illinois?
Well, I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and
were all girls?
No, actually. So I have my oldest sibling is a sister, then a brother, then a sister. Although I'm 7 years apart from my nearest sibling.
You're like the baby.
Yeah. Like,
by
how did you get
7
here?
years?
Right. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So a blessing, I would say.
Yeah, that's what your parents said.
So actually that was interesting because I had great relationships with my siblings, but because of the distance in years.
How much older is the oldest one from you?
That would be about 10 years, 10 to 11. Yeah.
Okay.
So when she was leaving for college, I'm like 7.
Yeah.
So that's just interesting family dynamics, and it's good. So I, what did I do? I was a kid. I don't know. I grew up.
No, but what were you interested in? Were you the kind of kid who's out in the
sports?
I don't have any idea what's going on in Washington, Illinois. Is it like an outdoors paradise, or is it just?
Yeah, no, it's a small town. It's a lot of people live there forever. Like it's a great little community.
Your family's still there?
My parents both lived there until they each passed away in the last 18 months.
Yes,
so
sorry
they
about
were
that.
yeah. So thank you. So they were in the same home for my dad for 55 years.
Holy smokes!
Right?
Yeah.
You can collect some things in that time.
So do they still have your room?
It existed. It wasn't my room, but yes, the room.
You really
was there.
though, you could go back to your house.
Not to my room. They repurposed it.
Yes, but it still was. So you could go back and be like, this is the room that
I came home from the hospital to that house, and yeah. So
wow.
So a lot of stability in that, right? To grow up in the same place, and my parents love the Lord, my siblings love the Lord. So let's see, I was into sports.
What kind?
Enjoyed, basketball.
You're a pretty tall guy.
Okay, yeah.
Well, how tall are you?
About 6'3".
Okay, so are you the shortest in your family, or are you?
I'm the shortest. Then my brother's taller than I am, and I'm taller than my sisters. But yeah,
The shortest boy though. He's how tall is he?
6'5".
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he probably played basketball as well.
Yeah. Well, he didn't. Yeah. So here's my crazy basketball career. I played in middle school. I did not play in high school, and then I played in college.
Well, you didn't need to play in high school. I mean, you were that good.
No, I was not that good. I just didn't.
Did you get a scholarship in 8th grade there? You're like, this guy's going to be good.
I'm just going to hold out for 4 years and go straight to college. No,
you didn't want to get injured.
Yeah, no, that isn't the story, but it's a good one. I don't know exactly what happened, frankly. I've tried to rebuild it. And I think part of it was I didn't really grow till about my junior year in high school. So I was not a tall kid.
Late bloomer.
Yep. So I was not a tall kid at the time that high school sports were starting. So I actually ended up playing tennis through high school.
Did you now?
Yeah. Yeah. So
is that your better sport? Do you play tennis better than you?
At one time it was. I haven't played in forever. So I've actually thought I should pick that up again.
But what was your best? Okay, what was the best part of your basketball game? Like if you were coming and you were, we're going to do a pickup game. I don't know who you are, and I'm like, well, what are you going to offer our team?
Well, when I played at Moody Bible Institute, which, by the way, if you think it's impressive to play in college, I always say that's the plankton on the food chain of college basketball. So, that's the baseline right there. I would say my best thing was, playing as a team. So, I was not a big scorer or anything like that, but, pick, pass, rebound.
Oh, you're make
the team.
Yeah. You're the Horace Grant of the, is that, I see that local. I can take that. I like
local
that. Knowledge, the Horace Grant of the team.
That's pretty good. Yep.
So, that's not bad. Was Moody Bible Institute's team any good?
Yes and no. Our first year we were pretty good, and then we were awful. I think we had my sophomore year we might have won 3 games.
Oh,
out of 20 something.
That's not a lot.
No, it isn't. It's a very long season. And then by the time I was a senior, we got better again. So,
okay. Yeah, so you're there for the rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a blast. Moody is a great school, but you should not go there for sports. You should go there. You should go there because you want to go to the school. For
all those out there who are looking for a scholarship to move.
If you're being recruited, that's great, but don't. That's not your best play.
Tennis though.
Yeah. I played in high school for 4 years.
You're a righty, right-handed.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
What was your best? I'm assuming your forehand was better than your backhand.
Yeah, it's always true, right?
Yeah. Tell me what kind of tennis player. See, I played tennis, so I'm going to ask you. Nice. You kind of a crash the net kind of guy.
No,
kind of
I was
serve
more.
Volley,
no, I had a good serve, and I was mostly baseline. But my big claim to fame is I got 3rd in the conference doubles. In high school. Yeah, so 3rd. That's in doubles.
That's great.
I'm kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Well, in the high school conference,
it was fun.
Doubles, yeah,
it was fun. So,
what year did you graduate from high school?
1990.
Yeah, me too. Dave and I are only days apart.
Yeah, but you're older. You are older.
Dave, I am older by a few weeks.
Okay.
And in that time, I learned a great deal. I would like to share with you some of the wisdom I gained.
That's awesome.
In the summer of 1972.
Uh-huh.
So you grew up in your hometown. Were you part of a Christian family?
Yes. Yeah. So my parents both love the Lord and served in our church. The church was in Peoria, 15, 20
Was it a certain
away.
kind of church?
It was a Presbyterian church. And, but so as you know, there's a whole spectrum there of more or less conservative. They were very conservative, a PCA church, sound in teaching of the word and pointing people to Christ. And so that was a great.
Were you baptized as a baby?
It's so funny. I didn't know for a long time. I couldn't remember, and I kept forgetting to ask.
Remember?
No, I guess I didn't mean that to be as funny as it was, but I actually just recently, I'd gone through some of my parents' things, found a certificate of my infant baptism.
Well, there it is.
Yeah. So,
Have you been baptized since?
I have.
Oh, okay.
I have, here at Harvest, actually.
Yeah.
So,
so you are a true Anabaptist.
yes,
of
correct.
Being rebaptized.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I would say that, biblically, my baptism was as an adult. You know? But I understand.
You went, somebody
tradition.
threw some water on your
Yeah,
kid.
that said more about my church and my parents, but my own statement of faith profession was, there.
So you grew up, were you part of a youth group and all of that in this Presbyterian church? Did you find the church do you like church?
Yeah. Oh, I love church. But
even when you were a kid, there was never a moment where you were thinking to yourself,
I didn't say that. Okay. I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth, Jeff.
Okay.
No, I had a season, middle school, early high school, where I thought church was the dumbest thing. And frankly, there were wonderful people, but I think the small group was the youth group was quite lame, like flannel graphs and, that type of stuff. But I remember that particularly my mom, I would say, hey, I don't want to go. I'm not going. And she would say, well, you are going. And I would say, well, no, I'm not going. And she would somehow win. And she won enough times to where I connected with the youth pastor, and he really marked my life with his intentional interest. I remember him taking me to Taco Bell, and we got laughing so hard that I had whatever beverage I was drinking coming out my nose, and I just was like, it became my place.
That was before the days of Baja Blast too.
Correct.
So the
Thank
stuff
you,
coming
Lord.
out.
Who knows what that was? Yeah. So, but he really took a particular personal interest and invested in me. And that paid huge, it helped me to make my faith my own. And I was thinking about this just the other day. So his name is Mike Austin, and he and a volunteer leader named Bill Kroll, I remember sitting with them in the church library with a small group of high school students and him talking about discipleship and how you're called to follow Christ, but you're called to make disciples. And he said, my prayer and my hope is you guys will become makers of disciple makers. And I remember at that age being like, that's awesome. Yeah. Just the concept of that. So,
well, that's pretty huge, right? When you get a youth pastor who connects with you and shows interest and is able to kind of keep you together.
So that was a huge tipping point for me. And then from that point, I was all in. I wanted to be a part of everything.
Well, you went to Moody.
I did.
So it must have been in high school sometime along there that you got interested enough to say that. I'm assuming you went to Moody because you thought you might want to go into ministry?
So, yeah, I think that was a potential thing. But I grew up in Peoria, which is Caterpillar Tractor World Headquarters, or was at the time. And my dad was an engineer, worked for Cat. My brother was an engineer, worked for Cat. And I'm like,
did you own a Cat?
I was good. we did own a Cat.
I mean that as the tractor.
A tractor. No, those are pretty expensive. We didn't own one of those. But
have you driven one?
I have not. I've not. Do you know anyone who has one?
No,
I'd love to go do it.
It sounds like fun though, wouldn't it?
So I was pretty good at math and science in high school, and I thought, well, I'll be an engineer and work at Cat. So I was kind of had that going in my head, but somewhere along the line, I think it was part wanting to get out of small town and go to Chicago, and part like maybe the Lord has something in this. And in my head, I'm like, I just want to be a better person in my church, more equipped, understand the word and theology. So I went to Moody thinking it'd be a year. And it ended up being 4 years and confirmation of like, no, this is the path to be serving in ministry as a pastor.
What was your favorite thing to do when you kind of got involved in ministry there?
Yeah,
like what
at that stage?
Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah.
You wanted to preach, or did you just like?
So initially students, because I think that's so natural for people, right? Like that's your only experience you've had. So you're like, great, I'll be that. I'll minister to students. But I had enough student ministry experience that I quickly learned other people are better at that than me. And I'm thankful for our youth pastors because, wow, it wouldn't be great if I was doing it. But yeah, and then as I developed through that, really, I would say discipleship, pastoral care, like God's given me the ability to lead in the right context, but I've never felt like, hey, come on, I'm the guy, everybody follow me. I felt like I do well in a team where we can partner and use gifts and focus in on those areas.
Yeah.
So,
So 4 years at Moody, is this where you met your wife?
It is, which is the best part by far. So
she's from here.
Diane grew up in Bartlett and Medina, so western suburbs, and then went to Moody. So we met there, and we had kind of common friends, and we knew of each other. But the tipping point, which I'm so thankful, there was a thing called roommate setup weekend. Does that sound like a small Bible college thing?
Ring by spring or your money back, buddy.
So she and her roommate had an agreed list of 5 or 6 like potential candidates that would be okay. And I made the list, which I'm super thankful for. And the thing we laugh about is the other 5 were like crazy, life of the party, like completely different.
And then you.
And then me. And I remember her saying, like, he seems like a challenge. Maybe try him. And she had no idea how much that was true. But yeah, that was our first date. And her roommate paid for it, gave us money for it, made this whole scavenger hunt up and down Michigan Avenue, go here, go there, and sent us with a camera, take pictures. So we have pictures of our very first date, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
At a time when not everybody had pictures.
No, they have those. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it was just after electricity.
Was there a point during this first date that you thought to yourself, oh,
yeah, for sure,
this could be pretty great?
For sure. Yeah,
okay. So
for sure.
you guys hit it off.
And then the funny thing, the second date was like the next week. And I'm like, hey, Diane, you want to go out? And I didn't even know it was her birthday or the day they were going to celebrate her birthday. And so her whole family canceled their plans and we went out for a second date. And we ended up dating for about 3 years. So
wow.
Yeah.
Like the whole family canceled the plans because you wanted to go on a date with her.
I did not know that at the time. I did not know that.
That's pretty committed though on her part. Here's a signal for you, buddy.
Yeah, I was thrilled.
Yeah,
so
I bet you were.
It's all worked out.
That's fantastic. 3 years of dating.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep. So she's
what took you so long, buddy?
Well, she was a couple years younger, so I graduated sooner, and I went back to my home church where I had grown up, and I did a pastoral internship for about 1.5 years, and while she finished at Moody.
Okay.
And then through that experience, the leaders there were saying, hey, we confirm like you should be serving in ministry. But you should go get some more education. So I was pursuing where would I do that? How would I do that? And she was still in Chicago. So I'm like, I'm not going to Dallas. I'm not going to California.
What schools are in Chicago?
Well, the one I chose was Trinity.
Yeah, very
up
close.
In Deerfield.
Yeah.
So at the time, Moody didn't have an MDiv full program.
But
so
Wheaton didn't either, I bet.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't think I could have afforded it. Though. But yeah, so Trinity. And so I ended up going there. And
what's your degree at Trinity?
I did a Master's of Divinity.
And was there an emphasis in your Master's of Divinity?
I purposely didn't do that because I wanted to take electives in different areas.
Okay.
So some in preaching, some in counseling, some in different things.
So you got involved at Harvest Bible Chapel at what point then?
Yeah.
Because when did you graduate from seminary?
95.
Wow.
And let me think a second. So Diane's brother was attending Harvest as a single man, and he's like, this is a great church. You got to come check it out. So we came, started to visit, and we're like, yeah, we love it. So we started to lean in.
In the mid-90s?
It would have been like 95, 96.
Wow, so the church is only like 6 years old.
Yeah, so at that time, one campus, no Saturday night service. It was maybe 1,000 people in Rolling Meadows. And it was sweet, like a lot of great things going on. So we plugged in, got in a small group. We actually got into a newly married ministry when we got married, and still there's good friends of ours in the church who we've done life together for 25 years from that small group, which is pretty crazy. It's great.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Especially in a place like Chicago that's a little bit transient.
It's really true. And we have so many great young adults and couples who are here, but they're here for a season. So to have that kind of longevity has been good.
So how long have you been at Harvest then?
So attending would have been, like I said, 95 or 96. And then Diane was actually on staff before I was. So she worked with our Rick Donald, who was our assistant senior pastor, and then with Harvest Kids Ministry before it was called Harvest Kids, I think. And and then I got hired. I think what
to do
actually
what did you get hired?
Here's
to
what
do?
I think happened, Jeff. I was talking with our staff like, hey, I'd love to stay here and serve, and they're like, yeah, great, but we don't quite have the budget and the right role at this time as I'm graduating from seminary. So we started looking in Iowa and Pennsylvania and wherever there were openings. None of those worked out for various reasons. And then Harvest came back and said, hey, what if we just set it up for 6 months? Let's try it and see. And so it was interesting though, because we were ready to go. Like at that point, we're like, okay, we're moving on. So we had to kind of pray, like, should we stay? And we're like, yeah, we should do this. So I got hired for 6 months in 1999.
To do what?
To pastoral ministry, like partnering with congregational care, small groups, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you stuck. You're just sort of like,
just keep showing up.
Well, totally. You're like the tick that bore itself
or athlete's
underneath.
foot, maybe. You just can't quite get rid of it.
Right. So but you've been through the whole gamut of Harvest's excitement and difficulty. In fact, Dave, the first time I think I ever saw you was when I was looking at videos before I came here of what happened at Harvest over the last several years, and you were like an ever-present person on a stage holding microphones very frequently.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to hold the microphone.
And then when you were actually on the search committee, so you're to be faulted, right?
Yeah. Well, we each bear our burdens. in different
Without a
ways.
doubt.
No.
But I remember seeing you on the video on that call. And I was like, oh, this is the guy who is on this whole. He's the microphone holder.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me, first of all, what are some of your richest memories of all that time at Harvest Bible Chapel? Like when you look back and you think, man, that was really cool.
Yeah. Two things come to mind. Life change. And all the different stories of people coming to faith in Christ and growing and changing, and just so many different people you can think of. And then I think the other thing is watching people in the church grow up into ministry roles, whether it's a volunteer role or even I'm going to go to seminary or Bible college and go plant a church. And I mean, there's a guy I can think of who I remember he was a small group leader, and that was a stretch for him. And then one day he's like, hey, can we go to Taco Bell? I think everything good happens at Taco Bell. So we actually never go there.
That's the message of this podcast.
This podcast sponsored by. Yeah. So
just as a quick aside, when you go to Taco Bell, what do you get?
I don't go often.
Come on.
I honestly, here's the truth. I really struggle with their menu.
Crunchwrap Supreme.
Really?
Right?
I don't know.
I'm looking at other people in the room right now, and they're kind of like...
I feel like they've overcomplicated things a little bit.
Oh, they have, there's no question.
So I don't know if... anyway.
Remember the days where tacos were like, seriously, 30 cents or whatever?
Yeah.
40 cents?
Yeah.
You get like 12 of them.
They used to have a thing there called a chilito.
Yeah.
This is back
in
in the 90s.
They made these words up.
Yeah, it's not a word, but it was really good and cheap, which I appreciated.
Yes, absolutely.
So I met this guy at Taco Bell, and he was like a small group leader here and working in sales. And he's like, I think I want to go to Bible college. And I'm like, all right, let's talk about that. And long story short, he ended up being a church planter, and I'm like, that's awesome to watch. And I can think of different ones who started as interns and then went to different places, and some inside and some outside of our church. So that's exciting to me, the multiplication of ministry.
Yeah. Well, it would be, especially if you've been in the same place for a while. You get to see people go through their whole stages.
And then I would say the next thing is, I'm just old, right? So seeing generational things, like a family who's had all of their kids dedicated as babies, and then to see their kids get baptized, and then to see some of them get married and bring their kids back. You're like, holy cow, that's really beautiful.
Well, and then to see people who are serving in the church, even now, who might have been here when you were around, and you're like, man, I remember when you were like 8.
Yes. Oh,
and now you're,
Yeah. That's really cool to watch.
It is cool to watch.
God's faithful in all seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this next question is, when you look back, hardest things. Can be a moment, but it could also be generally like the hardest things about Harvest, hardest things about ministry in general that you find?
I think the hardest things in ministry are seeing people at crisis points or crossroad points and seeing a path forward for them in full submission to the Lord and His Word that will lead to redemption, that will lead to life, and not being able to choose that for them. Making a choice that is foolish or unwise, and it's just a heartbreak, right? Because you're like, so much more could be for them.
Yeah. Have you gotten to the point in your ministry where that hurts less when you see it, or is it still hurt the same even now? Or more so? Yeah. Sometimes people get so frustrated. Some pastors are like, I cannot believe this. How come?
I think there's something. So the other thing is, you do enough pastoral ministry, you get involved with a lot of loss and grief and funerals. And I remember learning this years ago, that if you're fully empathetic, fully engaged with every scenario and every loss, it's crushing. Yeah. Like you can't function. And if you aren't meaningfully engaged at a level of true empathy, and then you're worthless. Yeah. So there's this really interesting, how to...
There's a tension there.
Yeah. How to really walk with this family in this situation, realizing that the Lord meets their needs and you're not the Savior. And,
So what's your secret sauce then? What has helped you? I mean, you've been in ministry a long time. Yeah. Is there something specific that you've been able to do? Because there are people even now that, not just in ministry, but who are they face challenges and are trying, on the one hand, they want to kind of deaden their senses because they're I can't face the difficulty. And then at the same time, they want to be genuinely engaged.
I think the best parts of that, when it goes well, are in carrying it rightly. So, we're called to cast our cares upon Him because He cares for us. We're called to, bring these things to the throne of grace, to find mercy and grace to help you in your time of need. So I think the best scenarios are when you're like, I'm fully present, but I'm letting the Lord carry that burden. Does that make sense?
No,
and
it is.
And I think the other thing is just slowing down and realizing, like, even if I've been a part of a bunch of funerals, this is the one for this family.
Yeah. There has to be kind of an open-handed surrender to God and recognizing I'm actually not the solution to this.
No. And it's such a, it's such a great privilege to partner and to minister in that space, but there's a cost to it as well. Yeah. And that's the part that I think the older you get, you start to calculate, like, okay, I can do that, but I can't do the 3 other things that day. Yeah. Like I need to put my energy into this today.
No, it requires a special touch too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're very good at it.
It's a privilege. I mean, we each have what we have, right? We're one body, many parts.
Yeah. Keep me out of that room. That's what I tell people. I say, hey, can I give me counseling? I say, you don't want any counseling for me. It'll last like 5 minutes. Just stop it.
Yeah. What don't you understand about this? Yeah.
You might say the same thing, but it'll take about 30 minutes and you'll nod a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kidding. Right. So, are you glad that you became a pastor? Like when you look back about it now, is there anything else that you think to yourself, that would have been more interesting to do?
No. I came to a point in my process when I thought I was going to be an engineer, and then it was like, no, I'm going to serve in ministry. And this is just for me. This is not a statement for other people. I couldn't see myself building tractors for a lifetime. I'm not saying that's not a worthy calling. I'm not saying you can't do that to the glory of God, but personally, that wasn't the best stewardship of my life and what the Lord had given me. So no, I'm thrilled to be a pastor. I count it a great privilege. It's hard. It's very hard. I mean, there's times, there's different seasons that are hard. There's different aspects that are hard, but I think the Lord's really, even over the last couple of years, increased the joy of what a privilege that is, to be a part of a church family, to have influence, and to be able to point people to Him.
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic way to say that. Okay, so I need to ask you a question that I like to ask pastors as a general rule. Yeah. I want you to tell me the most awkward / embarrassing / weird thing that you've experienced or seen or whatever while you're in ministry.
How much time do you have?
I just want one.
Okay.
So something that when you're sitting there and you're in it, you're like, oh my word. Yeah.
Can I tell you one can I tell you two?
Of course.
You asked for one. But
I know.
Okay, so here's a funny one. I just said this to one of our pastors the other day. The church I did an internship in, there were a lot of older people. And so every day there was a pastoral visit list. And it was like, Dave, your Thursdays, go visit these people. Well, I didn't know a lot of them. So I go to this hospital, I go to this room, and it's a shared room. So I find the person, I think. I talked to them. They weren't super responsive. I don't think they could hear me. I prayed with them. I said, well, brother, the church is praying, your church family. And I walk out past the curtain, and the guy in the other bed says, did you say you're from Grace? And I was like, oh.
Wrong guy.
You're Harold. And so
Harold,
I was like,
did you hear everything I just said? Because can we just, I got to go, but apply all that to you.
So in the moment, I'm like, what a dork. I totally visited the wrong guy. I just have to trust the Lord with all that. But so that was just a funny, embarrassing thing.
The other guy's actually in glory right now.
Yeah.
And he came to faith because of you.
I pray that's true.
And he's going to be like, thank you for making the mistake.
I pray that's true. Okay, so not real time. This is years ago. But I remember this because we had an intern at the time, and he was walking with me through the lobby on the weekend, and let's just do the day together, and we'll talk about it. So we're in the lobby, church has started, and a woman came in, and I'd never seen her before, and she had a cardboard box with her. And I said, well, can I help you? And it was she didn't look like she was coming for church. She was just kind of coming in the building. And she says, yes, actually. She said, my uncle died, and I want you to pray for him.
And she handed you
she was holding the box with his remains.
Oh, my word.
And I was like, oh. Yeah. And just the Lord in the moment, I said, well, ma'am, we do want to minister to you. We do want to help you. Your uncle's in eternity now. Yeah. So I'm not going to pray for him, but I would love to pray for you.
Yeah.
And the Lord just helps you in the moment.
Yeah,
right?
but still.
But the intern at the time, he's like, how in the world did you come up with that? I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen that before. I don't know what to do. So that's pretty extreme. But that was only once.
Most people don't usually hand you the remains of their family members.
Yeah, it's unusual.
Yeah. But you know what? If you've been in ministry for a while, you end up seeing some funny. I have a friend actually who's he was preaching his candidating sermon at the church. I was at a church in New Zealand, and I was leaving to come back to Canada, to go to Canada. And like I knew him from seminary, and so when they were looking for a replacement, I was like, oh, he'd be great because he's a New Zealander and stuff. And so we ended up working it out that he was going to take my place. So he came and did his candidating sermon, and I was gone during the time, but he came. And I called him later in the day. I said, how'd it go? And he's like, mate, so I'm preaching, and the lady in the third row keels over.
No.
She drops on the floor, and they're all picking her up, and I'm just keep going. I said, what
I have an outline I got to go through.
Keep going. He said, I didn't know what to do. So finally, he stopped. It was like, we should pray for our sister.
That's a good call.
So he prays, and then he starts preaching again. Okay. So he's like, oh my gosh, that's just terrible. Anyway, she was okay. Esma Gribble. I know she was sweet woman. Anyway, he comes back. If they say, yes, you great pastor, and his first sermon back. First sermon. This man is in the front row. Keels right over.
What kind of ministry is that? Is that a different gift that I'm not aware of? Wow.
And the man so they had to come and get him. And then they took him out, and he was okay too.
Maybe preaching.
But I was like, man, that sounds like Ananias and Sapphira and stuff there, buddy.
Were they related or no?
He said, I could not believe that this happened on the first 2 times I had preached at this church.
Wow.
I was like,
yeah, I've not had that happen.
No, I've never had anybody just.
Although I did have the one of the moments that told me I shouldn't serve in youth ministry was after I taught a lesson to junior hires. You know, you pour your guts out, and you're like, oh, I think I'm really connecting with them. And we got all done, and the kid in the front row raised his hand. I'm like, yeah, Billy, what is it? Thinking he wants to interact with God's word. And he says, for the pizza party next week, can I bring a friend? And I was like, yeah, bring your friend. We're done here. You know, like
when I first started in ministry, I was asked at a Christian camp. I was working at the camp, and they said, would you bring the message for the campers?
Nice.
It's this middle school or junior high group. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring this. It's going to be so good. And I started the talk with this line. There's a difference between boys and girls. And then I just paused. And it started to occur to me that probably didn't.
That could go a lot of ways.
So they started chuckling. And so then I was like, oh, okay, well, I got to get back to this anyway. Here, So I told this story about the Jesus sleeping at the back of the boat or whatever. I was talking about how you want to be in the boat with Jesus and stuff, you know. And I said at the end, I'd rather be in the boat with Jesus than playing with my little dinghy out there.
Right. You're like, junior high is like, tough crowd.
Well, that was that.
Yeah.
And
thanks, Jeff.
Remember this guy,
Thanks for sharing.
Paul, who ran the camp, he came over, he put his arm around me and said afterwards, and he goes, well, it gets better from here.
That's a great expression. Can't get worse. Yeah. That's hilarious.
So whenever I talk to people, we do training in preaching and stuff, and I'm always like, man, if I could just take you back
to the
things
first
not to do. Few sermons that I did.
Oh man,
I was so full. I was thinking, oh, this is gonna be amazing. Hour and 15 minutes later in a church, they're nearly all asleep.
Yes. Oh gosh, Lord help us. That's hilarious.
David, it's really good to talk to you. I want to do a lightning round though. Ready?
All right, let's go.
Okay, just a few questions right now. Your favorite hockey team?
It'd be the Blackhawks. Okay. I'm not a big hockey guy, but it'd be Blackhawks.
All right, your favorite basketball team?
Oh, that'd be the Bulls for sure.
If you could eat anything at all between meals, what would it be?
Man, I'm equal opportunity.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you cookie or a donut or like pretzels or you don't have any sugar or something?
Today I found a bag of pistachios, and I did visit that 3 or 4 times this afternoon.
You
that's
found
a good
it?
Snack. Well, I mean, it was on the staff table open.
Okay, so somebody else brought it in. Yeah, they were eating it, and then
great.
You went and stole their stuff.
Yep, that was great.
Okay. Do you miss your office?
No. Yeah, what we've been doing is kind of an open office concept. There are times, and even today, I had to work on something where I had to really think and focus, and so I'm like, I got to get away from people and do that. So here's a funny thing about me. When I was a kid in like kindergarten, my mom got a note that said, please let David stay for lunchtime so he can get his visiting done. So like if people are around, I want to be with people.
Yeah.
So when I got to do a task or like write something or really think something through, I got to get away from people.
Yeah. So. Who is the very best Canadian/American pastor you have ever met in the last year?
That's great. In the last year. So I was going to say Bruce Dunn.
The very best in the last year,
Yeah.
Canadian American, both citizens of both country.
I would say it's Dwayne from the church in Barrie. You met him when you were up in Barrie. Wait, were you looking for a different answer?
All right, Dave, this has been a lovely time. I want to thank Dave for spending his last days with us here.
It was great. Goodbye, everybody.
It's great to talk to you, man. Thank you so much for being
Thanks,
a part
Jeff.
of the church here. You're such a blessing, and it's so great to work with you.
Praise the Lord.
The rest of you, we will talk to you next time. Take care.